Hey folks, Dante from the world of Dante here. It is March 11th, Monday 2019. It is, let's see, we had daylight savings, so it's about, 1 o'clock here, I think. I'm going to hurry in regards to this video. This video is about Dogmen. Yes, I am doing something a bit different from the kooky videos I usually do. Those are all good and fun, but, my channel's about anything, really. And I've tried doing this video 2 times now, and I have technical difficulties on my end. I left some strange messages for somebody in particular with their own channel, called them up. Yeah, it's true, I do have a lot of good information in regards to Dogmen, which is not out there. I don't see the psychology of this creature being looked at necessarily. I think there are things being missed here. And there are most certainly little facts and details which I have, which the public has not put together yet. So I want to get into this real quick. And again, this is my 3rd attempt at this video, so I'll see how this video goes. Okay, so in the early 2000s, I came across this story somebody had posted somewhere. It was about how they were with their boyfriend or girlfriend out at the Great Lakes. They could see off in the distance on the shores of on the shore of the lake they were at some dark figures. They thought it was a little bit unusual, and they took a look with the binoculars, and they're all dark. They're black figures, 2 quote adults and a child. And to make a long story short, the one individual picks up the child and turns, and then what they're able to see is a wolf's head on this figure. And, I thought it was going to be a Bigfoot story, which is, back in the early 2000s, that's what I was doing. I was looking at Bigfoot stories, what have you, stuff along that nature. That type of material, and I came across this, and I thought, well, that's crazy. I rejected the story, and I thought, well, that can't be correct. It has to be they are mistaken. But the whole thing otherwise seemed real and true. It's just that I rejected what they were saying. They're communicating. They saw a humanoid covered in fur, but with a wolf's head. Of course I rejected it. Like anybody hearing about something like that for the first time, I rejected it. And finally, this was nagging at me. And finally, I came to the conclusion, I asked myself, I said, well, what if that had been me? And I had had that experience, and I had spoken about it. That's how it would look like, right? The other point was, I asked myself, well, how mistaken can I be if I had had that experience? How mistaken could I be? How mistaken could anybody be, right? I'm making myself coffee here, folks. Seeing a wolf's head on a humanoid figure, that's pretty darn hard to imagine in your head. It has to be that you did see it. And there's no mistaking it. You know what I'm saying? As a point, you see somebody off in the distance, a person, and you don't somehow imagine or see a wolf's head on them. There's no being mistaken about it. So I reached the conclusion, the story's real and true. There must be something here. And I was like, okay, research time. So I started scouring the internet, looking for more stories. And back then, because Linda Godfrey, she didn't even have her first book out yet. What do I say? Back then it was very, very difficult to find anything in regards to the subject of Dogman. Damn near impossible. But I finally did come across another story. Somebody's riding in their car. It's late at night, early in the morning. They're riding through a small, sleepy town in Vermont. With big yards and trees in the yards, and they see this unusual sized wolf, and then they see 2 more, and these things are not chasing the car, but they're running alongside it, kind of keeping pace with the car. And again, based on the description, I thought, well, this is definitely what I heard about in the first story, except in the first story, they were standing on two legs, and in the second story, they're on all fours. But based on the description, what they were saying, I realized, well, these are not ordinary wolves, as did the person who had the experience. That much was clear. They realized these were not ordinary wolves. So this was one more aha, and I've got to do more research here. So that's what got me started in regards to Dogmen. Now, I began writing a chapter about these for my book, one of my books. And, you know, I began, of course, researching Native American lore. Because if anybody's going to have a recorded history of these things, it would be the Native Americans. Of course it would, right? So you've got the Wendigo. You hear old stories. That was another thing I would come across, old newspaper articles about unusual things. You know, people having their heads removed, you know, just unusual stories. And, you know, again, it had me wondering at that time, at that point in time, I thought Bigfoot was more of a passive creature and more vegetarian. You know, that's not at all how I look at Bigfoot these days. But anyhow, that got the ball rolling with me. Now, Linda Godfrey had not come out with her first book yet. And I was looking for more and more and more. Then she came out with her first book. And then there was the Gable film. And you know, as a point, you can know that the Gable film is real and true, and this, quote, second Gable film is fake. It meant to debunk the first one and to create cast doubt on it for people not familiar with the subject. In other words, the public at large here will just take a cursory glance. They'll say, oh, here's a video, and boy, this proves that the first video is fake. And if you don't actually pay attention, then you end up believing that. Actually, the Gable film is real, and you can know it in multiple ways. When I was researching, I looked at the Gable film, and of course, for my chapter, which was just, you know, I just kept adding more and more. But one of the things you could do back then with YouTube was pause a video a tenth of a second. And so you could get these really great still shots. And you notice the creature at the beginning of the film as it's running through the field. If you have a quality video, and if you pause it at the right space, you'll notice that this creature has enormously long arms. The length of the arms is not normal. It's certainly not like a person. It's more like an orangutan. The arms are unusually long. So there's a point right there. Another point, my sister is a biologist, and her specialty is wolves. So, of course, I'm not an idiot, and who wouldn't take advantage of the circumstances? I called my sister up, and I asked her, I said, what's it mean when a wolf puts its nose up in the air, like, you know, puts its head back like that? And I didn't tell her that this is right before this creature in the Gable film charges. But you know what she told me? She said that's a sign of aggression. You see a wolf doing something like that, you've got to watch out. So that was another key point for me. This does have similarities to wolves. This creature does, you know, bear many similarities to wolves, but it is also different. The psychology of this thing is different. It's a little bit like a person. It's a little bit like an animal. So its psychology is also, in one way, it's a bit like a psychopath, you know. It has these psychotic snaps. Certain things that would scare off a person or a creature just seems to totally enrage a dogman. It just sets it off. You could say, well, that's also an animal thing. Yes, but when you factor in its intelligence and that it seems to perform and have an understanding in a way like humans do, then you've got to look at what I'm saying here as a possibility. And I'm just throwing stuff out here real quick. This was the problem I had in the last two videos. I was like Porky Pig, and they were just going on and on and on. So what I'm just trying to do is shoot out some points and observations here. Hang on. Another point. I trained our dog. We used to have a half shepherd, half collie mix. I trained her to go for arms and legs. And you know what you see at the end of that film is the person attempting to get the camera into the mouth of the Dogman. And that's a natural reaction when you've got a dog lunging at you, attacking. When it goes for the grab. It is an absolute natural reaction to stick anything in the mouth of the canine. So, I believe that video was edited. I also believe that it was deliberately released for, I think it was deliberately released for, it was meant to get the whole idea and topic of dogmen out there, for risk assessment and for locating, and for location assessment. You know, pinpointing clusters, problem areas, what have you. Because once the subject became known and popularized, this really, you see so many people coming out now, and government's tracking all of this. Of course they are. And I believe that the Gable film was deliberately released. I mean, this guy saying, well, look, this is my house, this is my car. Government can do all of that shit easily. Easily. It's the fine details. Like when that Dogman in the Gable film puts its head back before it charges. That thing has a snout. Just point one of many. The next point is, boy, that guy in the ghillie suit was good. He knew exactly how to imitate wolf behavior. Is he a biologist? The other point, when it's going through the field at the beginning where you first see it, those arms are not the arms of a man. Sorry, end of story. So, those are just a few points right there. Another point that I wrote about in my chapter, and folks, you hear this all of the time. You want an explanation for why you feel certain things when you're dealing with a dogman? This is stuff I had in a chapter which got erased years and years ago. I was researching this before Linda Godfrey came out with her first book. And I would have had this printed, but our computer got shut down. It, quote, went on the fritz, and I lost 2 books worth of material. Fortunately, I was able to get one of the books out, and then I did a second book, even based on material from the first book. I've had 2 books shut down as a point by government, and one YouTube channel shut down associated with those 2 books. Shadow banning has been going on for a long time and way before the term existed. As a point, most people don't know that Amazon does shadow banning. They are just as corrupt and dirty as YouTube. YouTube and Amazon are in cahoots with government. The government says, hey, we don't want this person being printed or this person having a voice. They go along with it and they shut it down. YouTube or Amazon is in turn protected by government. This is the way it really works. Do you understand? This is how it works. There are invisible policies in place behind the scenes, which YouTube and Amazon and Twitter, they're all going along with. They are all on board with a hidden system behind the scenes here. And what you see is this hidden system starting to break the surface. This is why censorship is becoming more and more prevalent. And people are fighting back because they realize they're going to lose their own voice and their own ability to print books. With me, it's already happened. It not only has happened, everybody in my life has gone along with it. And, I spent thousands of hours doing research. I've got tons of information. I have really good observations in regards to Dogmen and all sorts of other subjects. So I do know what I'm talking about. But, this is why when they had this hearing and Twitter and Facebook were there, and, these politicians, quote, didn't know a damn thing about it. Alex Jones went there. And, they got away free with their censorship. Well, there's a reason why. It's because behind the scenes, they're actually doing the bidding of a hidden power structure, which is going to pop into place here around the corner. And yes, it's got to do with the kooky stuff like New World Order, even the Antichrist, stuff like that. Yes, it does, actually. And my next book will be about that, in fact. So, it sure does. There's a hidden system in place, and it's breaking the surface because it's right around the corner, folks. You don't want to believe me, then don't. You know, you don't have to watch the video either. But I do know what I'm speaking of, and I'll prove it in my next book. If you do the research yourself, you'll find out that I'm speaking the truth anyhow. I've experienced all of this, the censorship and being shut down and having no voice. That said, behind the scenes, I have been able to help some people with their own research. DJ Welch, who's been on Hagman and Hagman. David Icke, you know, he did a video based on an email I sent him. You know, I knew J.C. Johnson. He and I used to chat back and forth at times. And, you know, so I've known some people here along the way, and that's been the extent of what I could do. The most I could do was give some information to some people because I am shut down. I have been. I still got stuff in my life which is not you know, that's nuts. Let's just leave it at that. You know, even here at my parents' house, it's crazy. But anyhow, let's get back to Dogmen. So, yeah. So here's the deal. We live in the Schumann's resonance. The Schumann's resonance, people go, well, what is that? It's the Earth's electromagnetic field, which we live within. It is the Earth's brainwaves. If you go at Wikipedia and type it in, somebody has mistakenly said it's the Earth's heartbeat. No, it isn't. It's the Earth's brainwaves. Schumann resonance is actually the Earth's brainwaves. You could, in one way, make an argument for Gaia and the Earth is alive simply based on that. Schumann's resonance is the Earth's brainwaves. It points to a type of consciousness here, actually. Believe it or not, it does. So we live within this electromagnetic soup. We were created in God's image. You know, we can... there's a lot I can say here, but look at mind over matter. People who are able to do things which are incredible and hard to believe. That all has to do with electromagnetic energy, has to do with power of belief, the ability to create with thought. That's what that all has to do with. Now, when people go out in the woods and they feel something, they're getting a bad feeling, you have an electromagnetic field around you that is yours. You are electromagnetic yourself. You resonate an electromagnetic field around yourself. This is all science, by the way. So for Lance or the woman in Sweden, Brenton, Kirk, you know, a lot of people here, anybody, you know, I know what I'm speaking of, and I'm going to explain this to everybody. Yes, this was in my chapter. Yeah, so you have an electromagnetic field, so does Joe Schmo, so does your pet dog, so does the neighbor's cat. You know, everything's got its own energy field. Now, what happens is that these creatures, one of the things they like to do is they like to try and run you off. You're entering their zone. They don't necessarily want a confrontation, but they don't want you there in their living room or in their yard. So people start to get a bad feeling. Now, what's happening? Many times what is happening is that this thing is doing a feeling push. It is pushing in a particular feeling to try and run you out. Now, how does that happen? It is extending its energy field into yours with the feeling that it wants. Do you understand? This is why some people, that you'll see it all the time, they don't experience one type of feeling. There are different feelings that people pick up on. Sometimes people pick up on, they just have a feeling of danger. That can be their own sixth sense. That can literally be them and their energy field picking up on something around them. So it's a two-way street here. It could even be, angels or spirit guides, whispering into your ear saying, get the hell out, man. There are several possibilities, but in regards to Dogmen, what they are doing is they are entering your electromagnetic field. Anybody who studies the subject of remote neural monitoring would understand this. You can brush up, look at Dr. John Hall. That's another person I've been in touch with before and spoken with before. It all works on electromagnetic energy, remote neural monitoring. It's all about that. With remote neural monitoring, they can push in a feeling that is not yours, a thought that is not yours. They have different ways that they can do it. If you're paying attention, then they'll have to try something different, because simply by the act of you paying attention to somebody misusing that technology on you, they've got to alter their tactics, because your own thinkings and energy changes. So, hello. So it's the same thing here with Dogmen. They can push in a particular feeling. They are extending their energy field into yours. And what is happening is that it is coming into your energy field, and you're resonating with the energy which is being pushed into your energy field. This is it exactly. Now, the other thing, which is really funny for me, you hear people saying quite a bit, well, I've seen one, but now I've seen another one and another one. And it's like, if you see one, then you're cursed. I'll tell you how that works. It's the power of thought, folks. If you envision something enough times with enough intensity, this is true, by the way. Indian yogis know this as a point. People that do mind over matter, which I've done things in my life which is totally mind over matter, so I understand the subject very, very well. Hang on. So yeah, if you imagine something, not continuously, not obsessively, that's a key point, not obsessively, but, let's say a couple of times, a few times a week, and you visualize it very strongly and with a lot of focus and energy, then you let go of it. What happens is you're literally seeding that into the electromagnetic sphere that we live in, Schumann's resonance. We have the power to create. And in my opinion, that's what's meant by we are made in God's image. That's my opinion. So what you're doing is you're actually seeding this. You're putting it out there into the universe, so to speak. And what's happening is that it's coming back to you. So people have the experience once, and what they're doing is they're replaying stuff in their head. They're playing scenarios. Well, what if this happens here? I'm out here by the creepy shed at night, and and they envision something happening with a lot of intensity. They do it, a couple of times a week for so long, however long, and then eventually it happens again. And this is how it works. You are magnetically attracting these circumstances to you. So this is why people end up with repeat experiences. And I'm literally explaining how this works. You don't have to believe it. You can look at this material yourself, and look at physics. Science is finally catching up with where I've been since I was a young teenager. And, at the end of the day here, it's getting closer and closer to science proving that God exists. So, food for thought for people, that Dogman is, he's entering your field with a particular feeling that he wants. Do you think that deer are getting this feeling? Of course not. Are people always getting this feeling? Of course not. It is being consciously done. Key wording here, by the way, consciously done by this creature to get people to go away. It's key wording. Of course, if this were to happen all the time, like it had no control over it, it would just scare off its game. It would scare off the very things it's hunting before it's got a chance to even catch them. So it's something that's being consciously done, and this does imply an understanding of mind over matter in one sense. You understand? So this is, what do I say? It's actually really good information for anybody, but you've got to understand the subject matter, and that's where writing a chapter really comes in, because it's hard to do in a video here. But it's good information nonetheless. It's food for thought, isn't it? Another point. Back when I was working on that chapter, eventually, because it was an ongoing thing, I was working on a book, and I would come across more material for the chapter. But one of the things that came out was a book called the Colburn Bible. And the story of it, I was like, okay, maybe it's real. But, as a researcher, you can't just automatically believe something. What you do is you look, and you might think, well, there might be some truth to it, so you investigate. Of course you do. And I was like, well, if this is really a book of ancient history that's being released here, then maybe there's something in here about dogmen. And sure enough, if I remember right, the book came out in 3 books, 3 pieces, and I bought the Egyptian Colburn book. And sure enough, I found only a couple of sentences in the entire book about dogmen. And I was so thrilled and happy. And that right there verified for me that the book is real, the history is real, and 2, that dogmen have been around for a very, very, very long time, because this is a book of ancient history. Now, in that book, it said that, if I remember right, it mentioned something about them on 2 legs. It was clear that this was not wolves, but that this was dogmen, that this was werewolves being spoken of here. And no, they did not use the word werewolves. They understood it's a nuts and bolts creature, a species, not a person that turns into a wolf. That much was clear. And they said that this was fascinating. They said that they target the women and children, and that arrows have no effect. The arrows just bounce off of them. Does that sound familiar to anybody? So, and again, you all don't have to believe me, but, the only person I gave that information to was J.C. Johnson years ago. Another point, why not call it Homo lupus? Man-wolf. Why not? Latin is used in regards to biology and in regards to plants and animals, so that people from different countries can speak about the same subject and know that they are speaking about the exact same species without any confusion. That's why that's done. I've heard people doing FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, for dogmen without any real results. Try asking for files on Homo lupus. Maybe the government's playing a little word game here. Maybe it's like an intelligence test. If you're intelligent enough to figure that much out, then maybe you get a few gold nuggets from the government and with FOIA, That said, they obviously are responsible for the Gable film being released in the first place. And again, they are doing a threat assessment and locating location assessment in regards to these. The second film coming out is just for the public, and to tone it down a bit, because the subject of Dogman has gotten so big to begin with. Another good one I gave to J.C. Johnson was check out The Lost Zoo at YouTube. That guy didn't have anybody for subscribers. And I sent JC a link because I knew JC hadn't even seen it. And JC was a tough one to beat. I could bring up anything, and he already heard about it or knew something about it. He didn't know jack shit about The Lost Zoo. And once again, a story here with my sister. I was here in my parents' hometown. My sister came down for Christmas. And we were at her hotel room, and I showed her this guy's channel, the Lost Zoo, and specifically he has handprints. Now, obviously, this is not a full-grown Dogman because the handprints are about my size, a little bit smaller, but they are clearly handprints and not footprints. First thing my sister said is, she said, well, those are finger pads. That's her exact wording. Her next sentence was, she said, like a raccoon. Ta-da! Anybody heard that one before? And you can see the long fingernails. And then you could tell how big the print was. That was the next thing that came up. And she said, well, that's weird. She said, no, I can't, that doesn't make any sense. As she was curious, absolutely. You could tell the print was real. But the print was too damn big. She didn't think, her next reaction was not a world's biggest raccoon. Her next thought was, I don't know what that is. You know, so take a look, man. And you can find those handprints there at the Lost Zoo. I've checked them out ever since I talked to JC. It seems like he's got more subscribers now. And that guy's nuts. He's going right into the woods with his little bonbon. He goes in there with a pug. I think it's a pug. He's goddamn nuts. And that's what I said to JC. I said something to JC about this guy's just trying to commit suicide. But he's got more viewers, and his videos most certainly are interesting. He gets a couple of howls or barks, you know, not a whole lot, but it's the handprints which are the kicker. That's the kicker right there. He's got handprints on his videos. So, and you know, nobody did that on their own. Those prints are real. So that was fascinating. He goes out there with his little dog, which is just like a piece of candy, a bonbon for these for these dogmen, these werewolves, and you know, so it's amusing also. But there's some good info for Lance and everybody else. I could go into the psychology here, you know, observations I made about that. And again, it's taken, 10, 12 years for the public to catch up with my observations. You know, every year for the last few years, I've seen some things come out now on the internet, which were my observations and things which I said, a decade ago. So, and it's been frustrating because I was ahead, you know. So if anybody wants to chat with me about this subject, feel free to contact me. You can send me an email through my YouTube account. You know, just go to about, my email address is there, and contact me. And, then I can send you a Skype address. We can do Skype if you like. Because I've just got so much information. Really, I'm just giving a tip of the iceberg here. But, I've given some really, really good information even within this video. And you got to understand energy fields. Okay, I thought my tablet just turned off. It's about to run out of memory. You've got to understand energy fields. You have to understand electromagnetic energy. So, I recommend looking at remote neural monitoring. Look at John St. Clair Acquis, A-K-W-E-I, versus the NSA. And from that, it's only 2 pages of information. If you find the real information, the original information, it's only 2 pages. But from that, you should be able to get an understanding of how remote neural monitoring works, in that the subject is real and true, and that it operates based on the principles of electromagnetic energy, which is really the world we live in to begin with. Science is proving spirituality here. These dogmen operate differently than we do. They can manipulate their own electromagnetic field. They are doing mind over matter. Yes, I have done things in my own life. And I'll do some videos about it sometime, because other people know about this. In some cases, people have seen me do things which were just impossible. So, and again, I'm somebody that's believed in mind over matter since I was a teenager. What inspired me, what opened my mind up was we lived in Bangkok, Thailand, and our school had a festival, and a guy got up on a ladder about 3 stories up, and he just had all these concrete slabs in front of him with maybe an inch or two space between each slab. And he's a guy, you know, only about 5'6" maybe. He focused, collected himself, and then went bam, and all the way down to the bottom. Broke them all, except for maybe like the last one or two. Broke them all. Just mind blowing. He didn't do that with his hand. That's impossible. He did that with his mind. He did that with electromagnetic energy, with frequency. David Icke gets this stuff, which is, you know, he's one of the people I've been in touch with and friends with, you know, associated with for 9 years now. So he's one of the few that gets this stuff. Reading his material, looking at some of his videos would be good for getting a better understanding of what I'm speaking here. So I'm going to sign off here. I'm about out of space on my tablets. That's it. And yes, you know, feel free to contact me.